Oh, we are. You can see that on your end now?
I mean, it says so. It says live, and then there's a timer counting upwards.
Oh, you
It's at
see that?
15 seconds and 16, 17. Were you trying to?
17,
Now it's at
18.
21,
Mm,
22, 23, 24,
mm,
25, 26.
mm.
This is
Good.
the important commentary
This is the
that
important
people
commentary, baby.
um uh just just do you audience do you just sometimes just stare into the void, just wondering why? Just more of an existential question.
Just wondering why do.
Why? How do?
Well, you know what show does stare out wildly into the void and wonder, how do? And that's Star Trek. And we're to talk about it on Red Shirt Rejects.
I would argue it doesn't do that.
It doesn't stare into the gaping maw of nihilism and go, "What's out there?"
it it we'll get into that. I have a lot of thoughts on this season of Discovery.
Okay, good.
Um,
Yes, that's what we're here to talk about. Uh,
Season 4 of Discovery.
Absolutely.
Not a dumpster fire. I want to. It's not a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
It is a perfectly adequate season of Star Trek.
Well, so we'll go
Better
there.
than better than most.
I was just going to say before we talk about Discovery, I just want to mention that the one. I mean, granted, there's been a lot of Star Trek news since the last time we've
Mhm.
podcasted, but um, the only one I really care about is these the promotion for Strange New Worlds has been fantastic. And what they have been doing that I think is so clever is they're doing character trailers. So they've done like their overall trailer for the show, but then they're doing a small like minute segment on each character that's in the show and giving us like a highlight reel of them, and so we can like understand who they are. And they're really good.
Yeah, I know we've got an Anar on the ship,
Yes, he's the engineer,
which is going to be like I feel really bad for him automatically. Just
right?
he's going to be a sad guy.
I haven't watched the Nurse Chapel one today. They released the Nurse Chapel and Doctor. Oh man, what's his name? He's like one of the only. It's like along with Nurse Chapel, it's like one of the direct ones. Was it Mbenga?
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's actually from TOS.
Mhm.
Um, and then they've done all the red shirts. So they've done all the red shirts. They did all the blue shirts. So I think the next ones we're going to get are
Or
like
the
the
gold
the
shirts.
gold shirts. So we'll probably get a number
So
one
I
trailer.
will say this: that first trailer for Brave New World, Bold New, what is it?
Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds. I will say this: that was the weirdest trailer for Hell on Wheels I've ever seen. Um,
Hell on Wheels season 6. I'm
I
hoping,
didn't know they were even going for that, and
right.
I thought it was going to be in China. So real weird to like take a sci-fi bent. I don't
Yeah,
even recognize Anson Mount when he's shaved. Literally, like he looks like a completely different human being to me.
yeah. Some
Um,
people are like that when they have facial hair.
so
Yeah, I'm hoping that we get a Miles O'Brien time travel episode with a like where they can have a Hell on Wheels reunion,
they'll just look at each other and like, why do I hate you for some reason?
right? Why do I find you really irritating?
uh,
Yeah, they definitely weren't friends at the end, but they weren't enemies at the end, so
no,
that's nice.
they were competitors at the end, though. Like
But yeah,
literally directly competing against each other.
yeah. God, I love it. Anyways, so that was all really the only Star Trek news I really cared about. We're halfway through Picard, but we're not going to talk about that because
No,
we need to really wrap up season
Discovery.
4 of Star
We've
Discovery.
not talked about season 4 Discovery at all.
We talked
I
about the
think
premiere.
okay.
Yeah, or the first
Um,
2 episodes, something like that.
all right, so let's pull out off our little discussion. All right, do we want to just like go down, or
Top
do
to
we want to
bottom.
just pick a thing
Yeah.
top to
So
bottom?
what were your general impressions of the season?
So it was it was Star Trek. I feel like of like seasons 3 and 4 of Discovery have felt very Star Trekky.
Hmm.
Um, they're doing better with an ensemble vibe, but it's still a really bad ensemble vibe. Like
It's still the Burnham show.
it's still very much the Burnham show, which I don't like. Not that I dislike Burnham, I do, but I like her more. Let me rephrase that. I like her now.
She is a
Um,
tolerable, almost likable character now.
See, so coming off of Breaking Bad, likable is not watchable. It's my most and interesting and compelling.
True.
Because like if so, Glow, which by the way, that is an excellent show.
So good.
Allison Brie, Allison Brie. Oh gosh, I can't think of her name. Annie from Community. For some reason, the name escapes me.
I'm pretty sure that's Allison Brie.
Okay. Anyway, her character is annoying and infuriating, and one of the one I like personally, I dislike
Yeah.
her a lot, but I've never rooted for a character more. So, because she's very interesting, and it's a very unfair situation that she's in.
Just
So,
like many wrestlers in real life who are wildly unlikable people.
um,
Hulk Hogan.
and like Burnham, in a lot of situations, I dislike her, but I am rooting for her. And I do find her an interesting and compelling character now. In season 1, I hated her.
Man, I really didn't expect to get into this topic this early because I was absolutely thinking about this today when trying to think through like my problems overall with the season and the series in general. And a lot of it really does have to root from my perspective around Burnham. I don't find her a particularly compelling character. So where I'm compelled by is by the characters that are all around her, but I've just never really been able to connect with her character like I have any of the others. I think Sonequa Martin Green does a fantastic job, but I just something about the character just isn't working for me. And
I
it's been
think,
that way from the very beginning.
and I think it is because of the very beginning, because I never really understood her motivations in season 1. Like, it literally felt like the actress got a script and was like, this doesn't make any damn sense, but by God, I'm gonna act the hell out of this. And she
Yeah,
does, but she's like, she doesn't, the actress herself does not understand the character's motivation because the writers themselves do not understand the character's motivations.
yeah.
Um, and that they've kind of fixed that, but like the damage is done, and there's no way to really fully repair that, from just the
Yeah.
train wreck that was season 1.
They've done a really admirable job of like you're saying, allowing me to root for her and root for her goals. But I find her character less well drawn out than I like, and there's nothing particularly that I like that resonates. It's like a lot of the characters have like a thing that they're dealing with, or a thing that they're going through, and a thing that sort of grounds their character. But
Like
she
Saru and the two dads.
Yeah, like any of them. They all have like their thing, and she was so listless that now her whatever her goals are now, it doesn't. I don't know if I don't know.
She feels like the main character of an RPG.
Yeah, I could see that. Shepard.
Like, yeah, that's kind of what she feels like. And so, or you could argue almost a Luke Skywalker type character where you kind of see what you want to see, in
True.
her.
Yeah, and I think you're also describing a lot of characters with fairly flat arcs as well. So in her arcs, just don't. There's not a lot of rise and fall progression. It's the tension with her and her relationships that really
Like the
like makes
only
them
the only
interesting.
arc in the last two seasons that I was like really heavily invested in, and it only lasted one season, and that was when they went to Navarre.
Yeah.
That was the only arc because it forced her to confront like her greatest strengths and greatest weaknesses and her internal psychology and all of that. Whereas this season, she had moments where that. The problem is that um, they've kind of let themselves fall into a trap where Burnham is always right.
Well, and not just that. I mean, yes, that is absolutely a problem. But I was thinking about this with this. So overall, my general thoughts are the season was very watchable. There were some elements of it that were very compelling,
Hmm.
and I feel like overall it was solid, but it wasn't particularly great. And I
I,
think
I
that
would
a
never
lot
have
of
a desire to rewatch it.
I kind of do actually. I've been wanting to rewatch the season for a few of the character things, but primarily, I think this gets to my fundamental problem with this season and what made it not as compelling as it should have been, which is that I never really felt like anybody was in danger. And
Yeah,
what I mean by that is that so oh man, I had it just a second ago with Burnham and her whole arc being tied to essentially those characters that are around her and the lack of choices. And so the fundamentally this season, this like threat that's been burning around in the background is this idea of like, is Burnham going to have to sacrifice Book for the Federation? Like, is she going to have to kill him or put him down? Uh, for the sake of the Federation or in this and her ideals. And I found that,
and for just pure practicality's sake.
yeah, and I found the moral argument between her and Book very interesting and very compelling. That was very good stuff because it really was an idea of like, if like because the fundamental tension point throughout the whole season is we don't know who the 10C are, we need to make contact, and like if we can
How
explain
do
to
how do
them.
you confront a true unknown in a responsible way? And when it's not just you that's on the line, it is multiple civilizations.
Yeah,
Um,
and that was the fundamental thing of like, how do we do this? Is it to make first contact and appeal to diplomacy first, or is it to first strike essentially?
like
Um,
do we just put them down and then deal with whatever comes next?
yeah, and that was a very compelling dilemma because it was like all respect to Federation and the ideals, but like it is logical to assume if a high powered species could make this device, then they likely already know that all these other people exist and they just don't care.
Hmm.
So it's like how do you rationalize with that? And is that really a practical plan to like put all your eggs in one basket to just try to say hi and explain it to them? Like how worth it is that? And that was compelling, but I never really felt like the or else was ever I never thought that Book would die, if that makes any sense. Never for a minute doubted that Burnham would just not like kill Book. Like when it comes down to it, I didn't think that the show was ever going to make her make that choice.
Yeah, and
And it didn't. And it didn't. I was pissed.
they absolutely did sidestep it with former president of Earth. I mean, scientist guy with weird tattoo on his forehead. I never
Oh,
bothered to learn his name. Um,
he was so fucking good this season, though.
he really was.
He's like
But
so.
like everything about him, I was like, you're not making it through this season alive. Like, I know you're not. Just the second he appeared, I knew he wasn't going to be in
Yeah,
the next season.
you're like I've seen sci-fi shows.
Um,
I
so I
know,
didn't I didn't bother to learn his name.
even though he
Uh,
was there the whole season almost.
yeah, I think
So
he wasn't in the first like three
Ruon
episodes.
Karka,
Yeah.
and
Um,
that's Sean Doyle. He's fantastic actor, great character actor. The first thing I ever saw him in was in Frequency as the serial killer.
Oh, I never saw Frequency. Anyway, the first thing I saw him in is The Expanse. He turns into one of the main antagonists by the end of season 1 and maybe 2.
Yeah.
But regardless, spoilers for The Expanse season 1 if you haven't been keeping up with
It's not
that.
really a spoiler. He's the character actor you bring in when you want like a smarmy douche.
Which boy did he bring his A game in Discovery
he
for
did.
that?
He he went for it.
It's so incredible. He out smarmy douche Stamets, which
He did. It wasn't even a contest. It's
it
like
wasn't.
down.
And like even Stamets was like, "What is
What
this?
is wrong with you? Who hurt you?
And why didn't it stick?"
It turns out his heart was broken.
Yeah, which I'm still really confused by that relationship.
Really?
Like that he had, because like, were they just friends or
No,
were
they
they
were
not?
lovers.
Why did he keep saying they were friends?
Because he didn't to admit that he was able to have an emotional connection like that, would and allowing others to know that he could have that. He perceived, I think, as partly a weakness, like a something that someone else could exploit to try to use him. And so that's why I think he kept saying it that way. But it was clearly a weakness because it did compromise his ability to rationalize
Yeah.
significantly.
And like I love that they keep making Tig the voice of reason in the show, which that's a very good role for her. I will never forget, like in season 3, was like, "You were stabbed in the chest. You're not okay." Just the most basic of things.
She's great. Like, I find her character very compelling because it is like her character does feel like the ultimate Starfleet, like fatalist sort of character. Like they came out here into the unknown to like do cool shit, and they're more than willing to die for the cause should they need to, and they're fine with it. It's great.
It's like I don't necessarily see her as a fatalist, but I see her as somebody who's she's been out here too long.
Yeah, fatalist is the wrong word. It's really more like no nonsense, but or maybe some kind of step beyond no nonsense, because there's a rationality and a practicality to her understanding of the world and how dangerous it is.
It is. I would almost call it ruthless pragmatism, but she's not ruthless.
No, she's not.
But she is just intensely practical, to almost to a fault, which makes her interesting.
No.
But
anyways, my overall point is that even though there was a very interesting central conflict or thematic conflict to the majority of the season,
they sidestepped that conflict.
Like they were going to pull. Yeah, I never really felt like they were going to make any of them really make that choice. I never really thought that that they were going to show up in the 10C were hostile. I never thought that they would show up,
or it would be a genuinely complicated situation that the 10C itself is in.
Right, that was what I was really hoping for. It was something like that, and
like they themselves are desperate, and they are doing this out of self-preservation, and you guys are just
and like not just because of feelings, which I understand, like the rationality. It logically made sense. The 10C's motivation.
It did, but man, we're gonna go into what I hated about this season.
I get really irritated when there isn't that secondary conversation of like, I prefer the complication of they're not necessarily benevolent or malevolent. They have a complicated relationship with the reality that they're around, and they've made complicated choices based off that. But it was so easy for them to just be like, "Oh, okay, we're sorry." We'll make it up to you guys.
All you have
didn't
to
mean to hurt
do
your
is,
aunt.
is explain things and be genuine about it, and everything works out.
Exactly. And it's like, it's not how it works with like the Borg. You can't really you can reason with the Borg to an extent, but at the end of the day, it's going to want to assimilate you.
You, you have to put it down.
Yeah. So I don't mind that the 10C were inevitably, fairly benevolent, but I wish there had been a more interesting conclusion to that. It emotionally works, I think, but it's not compelling from us as compelling as I would like. It's not as complicated as I would like.
And I think this does really get us, like, is a perfect transition to what I disliked about this season. And it really gets to a fundamental of what I dislike about the Kurtzman era of Star Trek entirely. Okay. All of these shows, with the exception of Lower Decks, so really just Picard and Discovery, are very beautiful and like are pretty well acted, but are kind of stupid and kind of basic and do not trust their audience.
Yes. No, they don't.
And because they don't trust their audience, it like they reduced season 4 to an after school special of walls are bad. You should work with people. Friendship good.
Well, it just feels like it has to over-explain everything in simple language.
And it's over-explaining incredibly simple concepts.
Yeah, that too.
And so I literally felt like I was watching a sci-fi version of Sesame Street by the end of season 4.
I will say, although I do 100% agree with that, given how Picard season, and this is not to go into Picard season 2, but given how Picard season 2 it has progressed and the critical reaction to it has come along, most of it has been because Picard season 2 is not doing this. It's not doing the over explaining everything. If anything, it's possibly under explaining stuff because there's a lot of critical reaction to things that are like not that are explained in the context of the episode if you're just like watching people do things. So
I will reserve judgment for season 2 of
Picard. Yeah. We're not talking about quality.
Either way, but so far from what I have seen of this of Kurtzman era of Trek, their biggest weakness is that they are and it almost feels like they're ashamed of being Star Trek. Like it feels like that's like at their very core that all of it they're just afraid to be like, we're a weird optimistic sci-fi franchise. That's our thing.
I think that has been historically true, but I don't think that's true anymore. One, I think season 4 of Discovery is the first season of Discovery that I didn't feel that. Like seasons 1 through 3, I felt not as much with 3, but especially 1 and 2 was that sort of like ashamed to be Star Trek a little bit, especially season 1. Season 4, I think, doesn't feel like that at all. I feel like they really embraced that as much as they could, given the aesthetics and choices that had already been made. But I think all the other shows have, like all the other new ones have absolutely. Well, season 1 of Picard is also another one that's different. But I think all the others have embraced it.
Well, no, season 1 of Picard, they just really wanted to make Mass Effect. With new character, with existing, with like Picard and Seven of Nine and a bunch of new characters.
I mean, as an aesthetic choice, I'm actually really glad. It seems like after season 1 of Picard, everything that's come out has really shifted to warm tones from cool tones. I'm a fan.
I mean, that's fine. I'm just so tired.
As far as the main things, and we'll get to what we liked about the season here in the next segment.
Yeah.
But as far as what I disliked, probably my main thing is the way that. So this is probably due to COVID. So I'm not gonna be too hard on them because I feel like they probably had to enact even stricter on-set stuff, which is why you almost always get scenes with just two characters that are together in a room talking to each other and not multiple shots. Like all the episodes are almost all the episodes are bottle episodes, and then the ones we get, they usually have their arcs are in pairs. So they've paired off two characters here and two characters here, and they're together the whole season. And that is, I'm imagining that's probably due to COVID, to try to minimize interactions between the cast and keep things from spreading and stuff. But my criticism for this season is that it felt like less of an ensemble than it did last season. I'm not getting,
and that contributed to that.
I'm not getting time with the characters I really like, and they're not really getting much to do outside of solving whatever problem of the week is happening in a plot. And I feel like there is an anemic amount of Stamets this season. And of course, like Tilly basically got rode off the show after episode 4 or 5.
Yep. And like she showed up again in the last episode, and
Literally,
that's it.
And that was it. And it feels like that had to do with like the amount of plots they had, because they've just started pairing characters off after that. And then next thing you know, like you've only got like 4 people that were reliably with every episode.
And yeah, that didn't help. I will agree with you on that. That did not help the feeling.
Yeah.
I will. It's still I'm not going to do like what we did with season 1, where it was just a grind to get through, and we were both just depressed talking about
I was actually just really happy. I was excited about every episode. Every time a new episode of Discovery came out, I was very excited that day. I loved watching them. I loved the experience of watching them. I had a good time.
I did not. I did not. It just, and this is, it may be preference. Like I'm perfectly willing to acknowledge it. It just isn't interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The way they are telling the stories they're telling just are not interesting to me. With the exception of Saru, I don't really care about anyone anymore.
Yeah.
And they are like correcting some of like the oldest gripes. Like if an admiral shows up, they're evil. If a politician shows up, they're stupid. Like some pretty standard tropes that Star Trek had. They've corrected those, and they've like deliberately inverted them. But it's just and it's pure feeling. Like I can't even it just feels like the show just is just going through the motions, and it's not really going to, with the exception of Navarre, I've not really seen them do anything that I thought was interesting in the last 2 seasons.
I don't think that No, I don't think they're going through the motions. I just think that they're not telling a story that you're particularly interested in.
And that may be because, again, like walls bad, togetherness good, like clasp hands, everyone's friends. All we need to do is be honest and earnest and explain to each other, and all of our problems will go away. That is a mindset that I find particularly disturbing, and I do not enjoy seeing it put on screen again.
Well, and I think as a final moral of the story sort of thing, I do find it lacking. But in the ways that this story was told, in the episodes it was told in, for the most part, really worked for me, and I was really excited about every week, just knowing that there was a new episode.
For me, I literally stopped caring. Like episode 7, when Book and Burnham
Yeah.
like had their split, that's when I was like, I don't care anymore.
Oh man, I will admit that's when the season really locked in on the A plot, and we stopped getting these like fun one-off like away team episodes or whatever.
Which like my favorite episode of the entire show and my favorite plot was Tilly and the Trill Not Trill aboard the space station.
That was great.
That was my favorite plot of the entire season, and I want a season of that. I want a season of stuff like that, because this big overarching like galaxy will be destroyed stuff, I'm bored. I don't care. You're never going to make me care about these ever again. I don't.
It's just so exhausting to be dealing with these like Avengers level existential threats. It just
Single season, every season. Not every season needs a threat like that. You don't.
That's what I really enjoyed about most of season 3 was that we didn't have that. We stepped into a universe and everybody was just trying to figure out what's going on, and we had a lot of very one-off episodes. But then the show, even then, it stumbled its way into finally having one in the back half.
And if they don't fix it, there will be another burn and everything will die.
Right? Like they go the whole season not having to do it, and in the last like 4 or 5 episodes, they just like stumble headlong into it.
They just can't control themselves.
They can't control themselves.
I'm just waiting for Burnham to get into a fight in a city with a blue beam in the center.
Well, they did. It was at the finale of season 3
where that's right, where like
inside the city that is in the ship.
Yeah. Which I remember watching that with my mom, and she was like, "Are they in a city?"
I'm just glad we didn't have any more of those mess ups this time. It's bigger on the inside.
Like it's Whovian tech.
Whovian, yeah, you know.
Oh gosh. Okay. So I will rate season 4 of Discovery a B. I maybe a B minus.
Depends on the episode.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the episode, because some of those are B plus, maybe even A minus. Like the Tilly episode, like where they're on the station and like where Burnham and the president are arguing. That belongs in like, this is an excellent example of a Star Trek episode. And again, it was small. And even don't be afraid to be small,
with
guys.
Tilly, like with the away team with the cadets.
Yeah,
that was another great like Star Trek episode.
Which, by the way, if that's what Starfleet Academy is going to be, just like Mama Tilly with a bunch of like cadets that might try to kill each other at any given moment, I'm kind of here for. I'm kind of here for that.
Yeah, make a I don't know, a sex education style, not sex education, but like that style of like teens in high school vibe with like Professor Tilly.
Yeah, and it puts Tilly in an interesting situation because she's been the person who's being mentored by literally everyone on the ship, and now she's the one who's like doing the teaching. So like that kind of stuff. Kurtzman. Do things like that.
Well,
focus more on that.
There, because everybody's like really worried about like the future of Tilly on the show because she's a fan favorite character, and
just give her own show.
Well, the showrunners have been really coy. Like it's sounding like she's not coming back to Discovery as a series regular, and right now the Starfleet Academy show is just kind of rumors that like we don't have an official green light or anything that's even coming down the pipe. So. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, does the actress not want to do Discovery anymore, or are they writing her off?
I don't know. I really don't know. I've looked into it. I've not found a lot of compelling stuff. Like the showrunner was basically asked if, is Tilly coming back? And she was like, oh, yeah, Tilly will always have a part in Star Trek Discovery. She's always have a history and on the ship and stuff, which is like
It's a weird way to phrase
that's a
that.
weird way to phrase that. Yeah. So it sounds like if she comes back, it'll be like a guest spot. So it doesn't sound like she's a series regular anymore.
That's weird. Um, that only makes sense because she's like not only is she popular, she's actually like interesting. Like
Yeah.
the only other character who like her and Saru are the only people I could actually see. Saru could just spin off and do his own thing right now,
Yeah, and that's
which is honestly more of a problem with Discovery because I feel like Saru should be the main character of Discovery.
well, it's so I feel like I have a problem with Discovery in general for this because I'm afraid they're going to get to a point to where the characters just reach a point to where the character needs to go.
Yeah,
And then they go, and then I have less characters I like on the show because they have only really developed those people. Um,
yeah, guys. That's why you need a true ensemble, not like to have characters whose sole purpose is there for a reaction shot, which is what like the rest of the bridge crew feels like they're there for, or like to say a single line.
hey, we didn't even know their names until last season.
I still don't know their names.
I've got, I mean, if
There's
you put a gun to my head right now, I can only name like
there's blonde lady. There's lady with cybernetics. There,
Detmer.
what?
Detmer.
That's her name, Detmer.
Yeah.
All right. Then there's her friend who's like the black lady with like the really
Oh yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
hair. And then there's Asian guy who's leaving next season because they didn't give him anything to do.
That's incredible. How do you know he's leaving next season?
Because I remember watching it in some subreddit on Star Trek where like they mentioned it and he was like, "Yeah, I'm leaving because they never gave me anything to do." And like, yeah, good for you, guy. Like, do a couple of plays or something.
Yeah, get your paycheck and leave. Okay, well that's interesting.
Um,
Um, let's see.
so
Yeah,
it's just, it is refreshing to start to argue about like the higher tier things about a Star
mhm,
Trek show rather than just trying to hit the minimum bar. It is nice, and they've done that 2 seasons in a
yeah.
row.
That
That's not
alone, yeah,
that's not an easy thing to do. They do deserve credit. They do deserve props for that. Everyone involved, actors, writers, producers, everyone on every level deserves credit for that. And I want to say it. Season 1, y'all should feel bad. Every season 2, you started strong, and then I made fun of you, deservedly so. Seasons 3 and 4, like it's not my preference,
man. I just realized
but you're doing good stuff.
you're notorious for not liking time travel episodes, and I think about 50% of these Star Trek seasons have involved time travel as a central element.
So like season 3, like time travel was an element,
And the
but
other
if
thing
you,
you don't like is the mirror universe.
yeah, but I can respect it when it's done well, and they weren't.
There was, I think actually, I hated it in season one. But the two-parter where they sort of send off Giorgio and she goes back to the mirror universe, I thought
That was really
those
cool.
were great.
That was really good.
Which season three? That's a season three episode.
Yeah, and like that, and that's a good way to send off the character. And I was cool with it because you got technology that is still really advanced with a being that we don't really understand. So I'm cool with it. Um, but then you had, I'm not even going to go through season 2 of Discovery. Watch Terminator 1 and 2. It's the same thing, but bad.
And there's no John Connor.
No, Burnham's John Connor. Burnham's John Connor because her parent, because at different points, yeah, exactly. It's Terminator. It's Terminator 1 and 2, but bad. They should feel bad. They should feel bad that they wrote it. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not. I also feel like the Red Angel stuff, like that was all nonsense. That was stuff that they obviously made up later on after they fired the original the showrunners for the beginning of season 2. So
Which I do wonder what that original season would have been like.
I don't know. It hopefully would have been absolutely buck wild like the first episode.
I mean, hope like I kind of want to know the thought process behind fire because like if it was a pure financial reasoning, I get that. Even if
Oh
something's
no.
what was it?
So
Give me them dirty deets.
well, according to multiple reports at the time, they were essentially fired for being heads of a toxic work environment.
Oh, okay.
And then
Okay.
like yelling at writers and stuff like that.
Okay,
Um,
that's fair.
yeah,
That's fair.
that and the fact that they like spent all the budget in the first episode or something
Yep.
like that.
Yep, that's all. I don't care how good the idea is. I don't care how well you execute it. Ain't worth it. Ain't worth it for that
Although
nonsense.
there is no substantial, I probably shouldn't even say it because there's really no evidence to it. It's just wild speculation from the internets. But
Okay.
according to a certain subset of fans, this was because Kurtzman's what is the word? Dark Universe thing like imploded, which was like where they were going to redo all the Mummy stuff, like
Yeah.
where they redid the new Mummy, and they're going to do all the Universal monsters. And then once that blew up, the rumor is that Kurtzman essentially made up a bunch of stuff so he could strong arm his way in there, and because he was the showrunner for the last half of the season.
Was he the showrunner for seasons 3 and 4 of Discovery?
No, that's Michelle Paradise. She was
I
a
lo-
writer in season 2.
Michelle Paradise.
Yeah.
You're doing good work. I need for you to like just calm down with the universe destroying threats. If you can do that, you got something special. And go more ensemble. Everything else you're doing great. I'm sure she listens. I'm sure she watches this every
Oh,
chance
absolutely.
she gets. I'm sure all the writers for Discovery have just been waiting for a chance to watch this. Um, uh, so and like I think if you compare season 2 of Discovery to like season 2 of TNG, you can kind of see a similar arc of like I don't know why Star Trek feels the need to reinvent the wheel every time they do a new era, but they do.
Yeah.
So, what else do we have to talk about?
Really, I feel like we covered most of this. I do want to figure out. So, what was your favorite episode of the season? What were some standouts?
So I think it was episode 3. Let me just double check it.
If it's the one with the space station, I think that's season. I think that's the premiere.
No, it's episode 2. It's episode 2.
Okay.
The Kobayashi Maru was episode 1. But episode 2 was with the anomaly and the new force, and yeah, that I feel like was by far the best episode of the entire series or season. Now, Navarre is still the best episode of the series so far. Unification Part 3.
Unification Part 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to pick something wildly different.
Because you agree with me.
No, that's a really good episode. Let's see. I think it's Yeah, the galactic barrier. For something completely different on the other side. So you have Tarka. This is the Tarka episode, the one where you find
Oh,
out all.
where you find out all his backstory and stuff. Yeah.
I've never gone from hating a character as much as I hated Tarka prior to that episode. Because Tarka it's not just that he's played by a fantastic actor who can just play the most irritating prick you can imagine. It's not just that, although that is a factor. It's that they managed to make him even more of a prick than you can possibly imagine him to be. Like, he's the most irritating, grating person who lures Book away, our Book, Burnham's Book, to go.
Space Druid Outlaw Book.
Absolutely, and my favorite character, like by far, in these last two seasons. I mean, he's a space druid. How cool is that?
It's a very interesting concept. Like,
very cool.
And I'm still kind of like, okay, I didn't see it coming. You have my attention.
Right. And then, so I hate him. And then you go into this episode and you learn, all this backstory and
he's a
why
sad,
he's doing what he's
sad
doing.
man.
He's sad, and you actually like, oh, like you have like that kind of empathy for him by the end of it. I feel like that was a really good trick.
I nothinged him before the episode. I nothinged him after the episode.
I was really invested in the Tarka book arc. That plot, I was really into it.
I know. Like the second it started, I was like, I don't give a shit. You're not going to do anything cool with this. You're going to cheapen out on us. And speaking of which, that brings us to my least favorite episode.
All right. I want to see if it's the same one.
I think the last episode.
Oh.
I think the last episode was my least favorite.
I mean, there's definitely stuff I do not like in that episode.
It's primarily like the last 15 minutes of it. I'm just like, just the entire time I'm like, and then there was the one scene where I was like, is that no, what?
Yeah,
I literally had to Google it on my phone because I did not believe what my eyes were telling me.
Yeah, you weren't like, that's Stacey Abrams right there.
Yep. It's like
she's speaking. It's a speaking role.
Okay,
keeps going.
It's walls bad, togetherness good. Eat your vegetables, kids.
That was rough. I'm not gonna lie. That was hard to get through.
Hard to watch.
As someone who's actually donated to Stacey Abrams' organizations and campaign, I still was like, "This is a little much, guys. You're laying it on a little thick." Like we all know that you vote Democrat. Like no one thinks you don't. There might be a couple of DSA members in this, but not a lot. Most of y'all are just like regular Democrats. I get it. Y'all like her. She's cool. I like her too. I've given her money. I get it.
I hope she becomes governor of Georgia.
Absolutely, but it was a little much. Mm-hmm. It was
well, just a little bit.
It's like when you're like a movie star or whatever that you really like posts political cringe that you understand the sentiment, but you're like, it's a bit much. This was that.
Yes, absolutely. So anyway, and not to say that there are other episodes I did like and didn't like, but this was the one where afterwards I just had this kind of empty feeling inside.
No. Mine is it's not even close. It's Stormy Weather. It's that dumb episode.
God, what was going on in that one?
Where it's like, oh, the DMA leaves a rip, so we have to go into the rip, and then everybody has to get beamed into the ship the ship's buffer because they're all gonna die if they don't because the spore drive won't work in this spot. And then Burnham's got her like, you know, suit on in the bridge, and she's got to like talk through and keep the scared ship company. In it hurts me because I'm pretty sure this was directed by old Frakes. But I hated the episode.
I mean, Jonathan Frakes is not immune from making just a dumpster fire. He can do it.
What was the name of that movie he made? Like Thunderbirds or something? Like, it's not Thunderbirds. I'm looking up the
sometimes old two takes Frakes can't make it. He can't do it.
Clock Stoppers.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Yeah, it's a bad time travel, like YA movie sort of deal. It is bad. It's a bad movie.
That sounds like the double threat for me.
It was
YA and time travel.
Yeah, it killed his motion picture career.
That bad.
It was, yeah. Like they would not let him direct Nemesis because that movie was so bad.
Well, after seeing Nemesis, it's not like he could have made it worse.
Oh no, he would have been fine. He got Star Trek. Gets Star Trek. But anyways, I didn't think the episode was very good. I didn't find any of it compelling. Like nothing about it.
I literally forgot about it.
Yeah, you literally forgot about it.
I didn't realize. I didn't even remember that episode existed until you said it.
Yeah, and like it feels like the last act of the episode is just a bunch of montages. Like that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It was bad. I really didn't like it. It also I don't know. It also feels like this might have been a result of COVID as well. Because it's like, we're having to evacuate all these people off the set and then it's never full again. Like the ship is never full after that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And going to something you said earlier, I will concede that it does feel like COVID really disrupted this season and definitely held aspects of it back.
Yeah, it feels like
it should be forgiven for those issues.
It feels like it had a really wide scope of like what it was aiming for, which is shocking because the season, even though the threat is big, the season feels so personal and intimate.
Yes.
It's interesting.
It was a big swing that didn't quite hit. But it wasn't bad.
It hit
They gave it the old college try.
Yeah, it hit my comfort food level, which is really, when it comes to Star Trek, it's mostly what I care about because there's just been a lot of bad Star Trek. And as long as it like I can use it as my comfort food, as long as it feels like a big warm hug, I'm okay with it. And
that's fair.
This passed that test. So I enjoyed it. Every episode.
Well, every episode but one.
Yeah, that one sucked. It was bad. Don't do that again, please.
Yeah.
So I guess sort of to broadly scope it out, because I feel like we're kind of done talking about Discovery. Just general impressions of Kurtzman era Trek. So, like, how would you classify it in the whole span of Star Trek's history?
So, it's definitely the most diverse.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Not even close.
I was talking to Robin when the season ended, and she was like, is there a white man in this show? And we start talking about it.
There are white guys in the show, but I don't think any of them are straight.
Exactly. I think Jason Isaacs was the last one.
Uh-huh.
No, Pike.
Yeah.
It's Jason Isaacs and Pike, but
and
season
Spock.
3 and Spock, yeah. But season 3 on, I don't think we have. Now, obviously, Doug Jones is, but he's playing an alien, so
Also,
it
I
doesn't
think I
count.
think Doug Jones is gay in real life.
I actually don't know.
I
I've
think he's
not.
gay. I think
I don't.
it doesn't really matter. I mean, Saru's obviously straight, but yeah, he's an alien. And so I don't whatever. I
Yeah, we're
do
talking
think
about
that
characters, though.
yeah, I do think that relationship with the president is weird and uncomfortable, but it's also between two aliens, so it should be weird and uncomfortable, and I'm fine with that.
Now, Doug Jones is married to a woman.
Really, I thought it was gay. Hmm. Well, never mind then.
Yeah. Anyways, and also he wasn't in that. Reason I was thinking about that is he wasn't in that spread uh, that they did with all the queer actors
Oh, okay.
for the show. He wasn't. He would have had a. I think he would have had a photo shoot if he had been, if he was, and I don't think he was in
That
that.
that makes sense. I never actually saw that. Um, but actually, I didn't even mean diversity in the actors. I meant diversity in just how different the
Oh, okay.
shows they have made are, because there is nothing like Prodigy that has ever been made. Like maybe like the '70s Star Trek show is kind of close. Um, like the cartoon show is kind of close, but like, and that's so long ago that. And then you've got there's nothing like Lower Decks that Star Trek has ever made. There's nothing like Picard. Discovery's like the closest thing, and even Discovery's distinctly different from all the other shows we've seen before. So I would categorize Kurtzman era's Trek as the most experimental of all the Star Trek shows. They are taking big swings, sometimes whiffing badly, and sometimes
Season one of Picard.
season one of Picard, season one of Discovery, for that matter. But also, like, I think Lower Decks is fantastic, and when we get a chance,
Incredible.
when season three comes out, I want to just talk about Lower Decks just before that. Um, I'm not super into Prodigy personally. I don't care.
How many
Um,
episodes did you get into it?
when they went to the Hirogen system, I watched that episode and then I stopped caring. Um, where the planet was alive.
Oh yeah, that's pretty early on. It's like
Yeah,
episode 3 or 4.
and
I think 3 and 4 actually.
yeah, I don't care. But I don't. I'm not going to begrudge people for liking that.
It's
I
also
will
like we're not the target demographic for that.
exactly. So not every show has to be targeted to me, and that's fine. Um, I will begrudge people who like season one of Picard and season one of Discovery. You're wrong. Um, but
I have such mixed feelings on season one of Picard. Obviously, as a whole, I think it's bad. Um, in particularly the back half of it, but I do think that season one of Picard gets a little unfairly maligned. Um, and this is something that we can discuss more when we talk about Picard. But I think the primary thing that pisses me off in general about criticisms of Kurtzman era Trek, but in particular of Picard season one, is the idea that the Federation is a utopia and that Berman era Trek has the brand of the Federation and the world that Star Trek is in. It feels more like it is a utopia, but it also, textually speaking, is not actually a utopia.
it obviously isn't a utopia when like every other admiral is a psychopath.
Yeah,
Um,
every other admiral's a psychopath. There's like literal coup in one episode. They
there's
like
actually been two different coups
You're
in
right.
that.
It has been two
Um,
different coups, but also
Granted,
like
one was alien based, but still coup.
yeah, it's because we followed the hero characters, and the hero characters were the ones that did represent the ultimate ideals of Starfleet. But on the whole, it never was like it is utopia. They had utopian ideals and aspirations. But it was never a utopia. Too many people die for it to be a utopia. And none of these people were perfect. They all made mistakes. And it felt like because it's kind of like a Last Jedi problem where, because the main character isn't as like wholesome and wonderful as you remember them being, and because the world isn't that wholesome and wonderful, therefore it's bad.
Yeah.
Which I agree with you with the experimental part. Like this season has really been the most experimental, not this season, but like in general, this era has been the most experimental. Like they're doing lots of different things. They're giving us a lot of different types of Star Trek, which is what I'm really enjoying. For those people who really dig a heavily serialized ensemble Star Trek, you've got Discovery. For people who want like a deeper character piece, you've got Picard.
I wouldn't categorize Picard as that.
Season two is becoming a much deeper character piece, but we'll talk about that.
We'll see, but
and then for people who want like a more classic TNG style Star Trek, we're going to have Strange New Worlds, and then we've got weird stuff with
Lower Decks and Prodigy.
Yeah, both of those are weird. Yeah, you're right.
They're both very weird. But I love Lower Decks so much. Lower Decks is made for me. Like it feels like it is made for me specifically.
So and we can get into Prodigy at some point, but I will say I did find those first 4 episodes frustrating. But once you get past those and the whole crew is like comes together, the rest of the season is much better.
Okay. If we do a Prodigy episode, I will catch up on it on Star Trek Rebels.
Yeah, they both have their Aladdin character.
It's very similar to Rebel. I'm just saying.
But
I also don't know how you make like a sci-fi young YA adventure and it not feel like Rebels.
I honestly don't feel like it feels that much like Rebels. But I guess we can talk about that later. But main thing is that they are experimenting. I agree.
And so something I told you at one point that I feel like the Kurtzman era of Trek is like the really good looking, really well-meaning jock, where they can do a lot of cool, interesting things, but they're just not smart enough to really take it to that level. And the more I thought about that, I think that's unfair. I think fundamentally the issue with Discovery is they don't trust their audience, and there's some like lingering almost shame of being like the Star Trek franchise, or maybe fear. It could just be fear of like taking over an established franchise like this. With Picard, I will reserve judgment for the end of season 2 to see what the heck they're doing with that, because they're only doing one more season.
As far as we know.
I mean, Patrick Stewart seems pretty clear that after season 3, he's done.
He's been less clear.
He's changed his mind?
Might be.
Okay. I guess he's having fun. If he's enjoying himself, they'll probably, Patrick, just enjoy your retirement with your pit bull, man.
Why do that when you can make money by enjoying pit bulls on set?
That's true. They'll do whatever he wants. They'll do whatever he wants. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry. So, and some of this feels like growing pains because they are trying to do a lot of different things. And I think we said this like 10 years ago that Star Trek is absolutely the franchise you could do something like this with. Like,
I'm still waiting on my Starfleet medical series.
I think it could be good. Like it could, I think it legitimately could be good. And I would really like to see a Star Trek Orion series that takes place in like dealing with Orion syndicates, and that's all it does. Like it'd be Star Trek Law and Order, and I would watch that.
Or honestly, the Worf series that was pitched. I'd be into
Michael
that.
Michael Dorn wants to do it. What's wrong with you? Like CBS, like you got an established character. Like let him do a Worf series. What are you afraid of? So, um, I think a lot of this is just that they keep picking storylines that I don't care about. Stop using time travel. That's not funny. Like that, there's no joke. Stop doing it. It's not
Although,
good.
at least this time, they're using Q to do it.
See, okay. So this is my theory. This is all I'll say about Picard
Okay,
with time
theories.
travel.
Let's go.
They haven't time traveled. Or to be more specific, Q has broken time. Because Guinan never met Mark Twain in this timeline. Like the events where they went to San Francisco, that never happened.
No, and the reason it didn't happen is because there had to have been a time travel incident between a voyage home and between
Between
TNG.
1984 and like 1991.
Yeah,
Um, but again, that leads me more to believe instead of there being a time travel incident in that time period, that time is broken.
I think so too. And
Because like the fact that you've got existing like the same actors playing certain people now, that makes me think something. And like the fact that Q is not right. He is wrong. He is not acting the way Q is supposed to. That makes me think time is broken, and that Q is broken, and that he doesn't quite know what he's doing, which may make the entire season an allegory for dementia and aging.
I hadn't even considered that. That would be interesting. Either way, I don't think they're going to have this wrapped up by the end of season 2. I think
I don't
whatever
think they
is
are
going
either.
is going to continue on into season 3 because there's like, especially after this most recent episode, like shit is just getting a lot more complicated, and there's a lot more ways that this can fuck up.
And it's not good. And I told Kyle this. I would prefer Q just be outright malevolent and just decide to just be ruining Picard's life in a very elaborate. If that were the case, I would feel much safer, and it would be a much easier threat to deal with. But a Q that is not all there, or if they're like doing a lot of the stuff that Voyager set up, where the Q continuum might be collapsing,
Right?
that's really bad. That's so much worse than the Q being malevolent. That is infinitely worse. So yeah, if that's what's going on, then everyone, everywhere, is in a lot of trouble.
Also, last thing, and I think we're done. I think we're done with Discovery.
We're done with Discovery.
So we're good with that. It was okay. But last thing about Picard before I want to put it down for until next time. Assignment Earth, like spoilers for like season whatever, episode 6, I think. Of all the references in all of Star Trek to have ever been made, I never thought.
Because wasn't that their attempt at a spin-off?
Yes,
Wasn't that their attempt
at pilot? That was a backdoor pilot.
And like it's one of the worst episodes of TOS.
It's okay. It's fine. It's fun. It's another fun time travel hijinks episode.
That's what makes it bad.
Well, yeah, but it's great because it's like Picard already mentioned that instance in the first episode when they were talking about how to do time travel. He'd mentioned about the Kirk or whatever had done this before, and that was one of the episodes where they did that. So I enjoyed that because it means they definitely watched that episode in preparation for this, and they were like, it'd be cool if we used this organization because they still exist, and somehow in one episode they tightly they tie up in a bow all the weird weirdness that fans have been complaining about since the 90s.
And it's just of all the continuity errors to decide to fix, like that's just,
And they just know it's like this whole episode. They set their mission. They're like, we're gonna make the timeline of
of
the
Star
90s and
Trek
the
makes
2000s of
sense.
Star Trek be coherent, and they did. I don't
Which
know how they did it.
that is not so. Again, I don't think they did, but not because, but no, like not because I think time may be broken,
Oh,
like
okay.
legitimately. And if time is broken, then nothing matters, and yet everything matters. Because, and we've established Q has been around when time is broken before. Um, so, like, that is not outside the realm of possibility, um, which is a more interesting concept to me than real time travel.
Yeah.
Because time travel, as I've said many times, is stupid, and you should feel bad when you use it.
Well, and the fact that an alien, I also found it interesting how they explain the Elorians, and that it seems that they have some kind of biological connection to time. And that's interesting.
Yes, which I mean, I'm cool if they delve into if they create specific rules for how time works.
Yeah.
I hope they
Which they've
don't do
never
that.
done that. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope they don't. Not because I wouldn't find that interesting, but because Star Trek will never, ever, ever, ever stick to them.
It's true. They wouldn't.
They will be physically like it will be impossible for them to stick to
I
those
mean, Marvel
rules.
barely got like a movie in before they started contradicting themselves.
Yeah, so um, don't use time travel.
Yeah. So that was my only thing. I just needed to get that out to somebody who would understand. Um, yeah, I think it's. I enjoyed it. I can't wait for season 5.
And I'm curious to see what they do with season 5. I hope they make it smaller. I doubt they will though, because they seem very committed to the serialized format and the Burnham show. So it
I just
is
hope
what it
we get to
is.
see the Klingons again.
I would be very curious to see. So what I'm most interested to see is season 4 of Discovery had a changeling in it, and I would like to see what the Dominion's been up to.
Yeah,
I would like to see what, because like assuming the Dominion survived and then the burn happened, there's no way the Dominion would be able to have maintained stability, so they could be in a similar situation as the Federation right now.
and that would be extremely compelling. Just going over the mess that the Dominion is, and also I just want to see how the trajectory of the Klingons. I just want to see how they ended up. Like I want
Hmm.
to know what they're like. A
The
thousand
Klingons,
different
the
people.
Cardassians, and the Romulans. Like, well, we know the Romulans.
Well, I'm not as concerned with the Romulans. Well, yeah, we do actually know with the Romulans. You're
Yeah,
right.
we know.
And we can infer from various characters that the Cardassians seem to be
What
Federation
what
members.
what characters are you inferring that
Well,
the
the president,
yeah.
various captains and crewmen in the background that are obviously Cardassian. So, and also the Ferengi. So, like, we know that they had a Ferengi bartender.
Which that's such a good reference.
So
Such a good
good.
reference.
And there's always a Lurian somewhere at the bar.
Of
Yeah.
course. All right. I think next we're in 2 weeks, right, Kyle?
Yeah. 2 weeks. We're going to
Uh,
talk about Picard season 2, and
Excellent.
because it won't be done by then, but we'll have most of the season in. So I feel like we'll be able to really dig into it.
And I feel like the next 2 episodes that will give us a very good idea of just the
Yeah,
overall quality
because like I
of
was saying in
this.
chat, like when we were watching it earlier today, like this is the episode that it really started to fall off the rails in season 1. So yeah, a couple in, we'll really have a good idea.
Is it only 8 episodes or is it 13?
Let me look.
Because if it's only 8 episodes, then we'll actually get the entire season.
I'm checking. Uh, 10 episodes.
Okay, so we'll get close. So we'll
Yeah.
only get. Okay, so there'll only be 2 episodes left.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then that's it.
All right.
Signing off for Trevor Law. Say bye. Say bye. She does not like
Bye.
this. She's not like this at all.